Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Anonymous Hedgehog podcast. I'm Rich.
And I'm Maya.
And today we're going to be questioning a very common saying. So I'm sure you all have heard of the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. But to what extent is that true? So first of all, let's just zoom out and talk about what this quote even means. So, to my best understanding, it's just don't take things too superficially and understand that there's a deeper meaning behind everything.
Yeah, I feel like that's the common understanding.
Yeah. So I've always kind of been split about whether or not that quote is even true because even in the case of books itself, which is literally what the quote is talking about, I always judge books by covers. And the back cover, I guess people say you can read the back cover for a summary of the book, but I found that more often than not, a book with better illustrations on the front is a sign that the content inside will also be high quality because the author has chosen to just put quality throughout the book, both in the form of the illustration on the front and in the form of the actual text inside.
Yeah, see, I feel like I feel that way too about books. It's just if it's a good book, then the author will go through the time to create a good cover, a good marketable cover. And it's the same thing for people. If you think if someone really cares, it's kind of showing effort, if that makes sense. If someone really cares about their physical appearance, it's not that they have to be naturally very beautiful or whatever, but they'll they'll clean up nicely, they'll comb their hair, they'll brush their teeth, if there's a girl, they'll put on a little makeup and they'll dress nicely. It's not that they have to be it's not that they have to be naturally attractive, but it's you can tell that they put work into their appearance. And I feel that's the same thing with the book. You can tell that the author put work into the book, or the illustrator or whatever, because they want it to properly demonstrate what's inside the book.
And you say that they don't need to be naturally beautiful, they just need to make an effort to be beautiful.
Yeah, I think this goes for people too. When I judge people's attractiveness, I definitely take into account how much they're trying. Obviously, we all have our standards of attractiveness, right? And I obviously think some people are more attractive than others. But if someone I can tell is attractive, but really doesn't try and just wears sweatpants all the time, I feel that's a really big turn off. If they don't comb their hair in the morning or something, even if they are attractive.
Interesting. That's interesting because I don't when I look at people, I don't think I take effort into consideration. In fact, sometimes if I see that someone's putting in a lot of effort, it does the opposite to me because it's oh, they're trying so hard.
Really? I guess it's different with girls because girls makeup actually kind of covers your face, if that makes sense. But I feel with guys it's more of just are they cleaning up? Because guys obviously don't put on a lot of makeup. The ones that do, most guys don't wear any makeup. It's just if they make an effort to dress nicely, for example, if they don't just wear the same T-shirt every day, the same basketball shorts or whatever, if they make an effort to dress nicely, maybe some accessories some bracelets or whatever they're wearing, and they I can tell they push up their hair and gel in the morning. I feel that really adds to someone's appearance.
Yeah. Have you ever noticed that you filter people out just based on attractiveness? You will go and approach someone to talk to them, not even in a romantic way, but just as a friend pursuit, just because they take care of themselves well and they look good.
Yeah, I feel it's almost just a natural human instinct. When people say don't judge a book by its cover, you kind of everyone does, and the people that don't are just lying to you, you know? Everyone does it, even on a subconscious level. Yeah, I feel I even friends, I seek out more friends that I find are attractive, right? I wouldn't, not that I wouldn't, but it would be less appealing to be friends with someone you think is unattractive because you have to constantly be around them and look at them all the time, and you want to be around other attractive people.
Well, that's interesting because you say you want to be around other attractive people, but do you mean you want to be around people just as attractive as you, or more attractive than you, or less attractive than you? Because I wouldn't want to be with a supermodel guy just so as friends, because then everyone's going to be focusing on him.
That's true. I was actually having this conversation with some of my friends. Like, do we know who is like more? But then we kind of just settled that we were all like relatively the same attractiveness. But then like that kind of just happened by chance. Like, I feel like we're like, we just have like very similar features. And I feel like I honestly feel like people that are the same level of attractiveness attract each other. Like, if you look at couples,
true.
I feel like couples are always like the same, like relatively like, you know, in the same range. Like, I feel like it's really rare, especially like long-term couples that stay together for one to be way more attractive than the other one.
Wait, I disagree with that very
Really?
heavily. In fact, I think the majority of couples is like the girl is more attractive than the guy.
I think that's just because you find girls more attractive than guys.
Well, I don't find guys attractive at all. That's besides the point. Like, I've talked to my female friends about this too, and I feel like it's very common to just see like an average looking male with a better than average looking girl.
I feel like that's true because we're young. I feel like as you get older, like, or like, what I'm thinking about is like long-term couples, not like, you know, like college and high school dating. Because I was thinking of like the long-term kind of relationships that I've seen, like from people like family friends or like people I follow online. Like, I feel like all of them are around the same attractiveness. Because I feel like when people are younger, it's like, you know, relationships are more, I guess, disposable. Like, you can go from relationship to relationship, and I feel like it's more common to date someone who is like significantly like has a different attractiveness level. But I feel like for people, like the person they end up with, it's usually around the same attractiveness. If that makes sense.
That's interesting. And just what you said about like friend groups attracting other people that are the same attractiveness, like now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like everyone in my friend group is like at a similar level.
Yeah,
and
right?
I know that there are friend groups that exist that are way high up on the spectrum and way low on the spectrum, but they're always in the same group. Like, I don't know of a single friend group where like one of the people in the group is like a model and the other one is like ugly.
Right. There usually is one that will be like you think is the most attractive, but like the other ones are not like a huge gap, you know? I feel like that brings an interesting point. Like, are you consciously aware of your own attractiveness? Because I struggle with this a lot. Like, there are some days when I'm like, yeah, I'm straight up like a 2. But then there's some days where like, yeah, I'm a supermodel. Like, no one's going to tell me otherwise. You know, like, but like judging my own attractiveness is so hard. Like, I often like go to other people and I'm like, okay, can you like just tell me what my own attractiveness is? Because I can't tell. But like the fact that all these friend groups have like the same relative attractiveness shows that like maybe we are kind of like conscious of our own attractiveness and we like seek out people who we think are like our same level.
I see. Or maybe it just goes along with the fact that like you're only comfortable being with someone who's only slightly more attractive than you, not like crazy more attractive than you or slightly less attractive than you. And so I guess a good way to be able to consciously tell how attractive you are is to rate your friends in your friend group. Yeah. And the average of that is probably where you lie.
Wait, that's so true. Yeah, you just like look around. So does that say that like we're unwilling kind of to be friends with people who are like less attractive than us and also more attractive than us?
I think so. And
that's super weird because like we would never like if someone asked me, I wouldn't say like, yeah, I wouldn't be friends with someone like less attractive than me or more attractive than me, right? Because that seems like you're just a mean person if you were to say that, right? But like the truth is like we all kind of are.
And and it's not just a mean thing to say, it's a mean thing to do. Like obviously in an ideal world we would only judge people by their character and not like how good they look. But I guess how good you look is also subjective and can be influenced by your character.
I feel like this is an interesting topic to go to. It's like relative attractiveness. Like, I've always thought that, I guess I'm curious what you think. Like, do you think that there is like an objective attractiveness?
That's an interesting question because like if you just look at beauty standards around the world, they're so varied. Like in India, like the norm is to have a mustache. And in America, like if you have a mustache, people call you a pedophile. Like that's the first response people have to seeing a mustache.
Yeah.
Versus in India, it's like, oh, like he looks so good, like he's an actor. And it's like I can't objectively say which one's better because it just depends on what culture you're more attuned to.
Oh yeah, when you bring up mustaches, I remember like back in high school we were learning about like Nazi Germany. They were saying that like one of the reasons Hitler was so effective was because like the women thought he was so attractive, and I remember being like, what? Like, like why would they find that weird mustache really attractive? But like, yeah, that's so true. I've always been under like, this is what I kind of believe. It's just that we don't have an objective attractiveness, but I feel like we have an objective like unattractive, if that makes sense. Like I feel like it's easier to agree on whether someone's ugly than if someone is pretty or handsome, whatever.
That's so true, but at the same time, just logically speaking, if you can agree that the contrary is true, then you're automatically agreeing that the opposite is false. So how is that possible that
Wait,
we can
what did you just say?
like how can we agree on people being ugly but we can't agree on people being attractive? Because those two things are like just opposites. So it's either one or the other.
I don't think it has to be. Like, because the thing is, like, you can think someone is, like, not pretty without thinking they're ugly. I think that's why. It's just, like...
You can think someone is not pretty.
Like, for example, like...
They're ugly.
This is... Wow, I keep going back to Hitler. This is not...
Yeah,
like,
this is not about Hitler.
It's not about Hitler. But, for example, like, I don't think he's unattractive. But I wouldn't call him attractive.
That's so wrong.
Okay, I just remember because you brought up the mustache and Hitler has a mustache. Okay, this is bad. People are gonna get the wrong idea. Okay, we're not
People are
Nazis.
gonna think that you have a crush on Hitler, and that is not the message.
Okay, but I wouldn't characterize him as like unattractive or like ugly, but I also wouldn't characterize him as attractive.
Yeah, I think there are a few objective measures of like being unattractive, and like. And those go beyond gender. Like they apply to both males and females. Like I'd say probably like the number one most common global trait is being overweight. Like I don't think any culture values that anymore. But like 100, I don't know how long ago, like 50 or 100 years ago, that was one of the most attractive traits because it meant that you were rich and you could afford food.
Yeah, well, actually, like. What about I keep thinking of like world leaders. What about like Kim Jong-un in like North Korea? Like, isn't that considered like I don't know if it's, but it's like he's the only person that can afford all the food. So like,
that's true.
And the rest of the population is skinny. So
and
I don't
they
know
look
if that's
up to
actually
him so much. Like he is the supreme leader. So I think within North Korea, like he's probably morphed their beauty standards. Like he's probably the ideal male that everyone wants to look like.
Yeah, but that's so weird because like I would say he's ugly, right? Like I feel like American standards, like people would say he's ugly in general.
Oh yeah, if he was on Tinder in America, like he would like not get a single swipe. Yeah, for real. Like just the without even seeing his face, if you told someone in America his height and weight and like. I guess like how his hairstyle or whatever, like showed them a picture of his hairstyle without even showing them his face. Like Americans would just say that he's ugly just because of the beauty standards in America, not because he's ugly, like just because that's the culturally accepted thing to do here.
But I also feel like it's not like it goes deeper than just like culturally accepted beauty standards. Because if you think of like the reason, like the role that attractiveness plays in like evolution, the reason we find some people more attractive is that they're more fit to like carry offspring or whatever, or to like further our DNA. Like we want to like mate with them. But the thing is, like I feel like Kim Jong-un would be like, it would be like counterintuitive because he's like overweight to the point where like there's like a lot of health concerns, right? So like from an evolutionary perspective, I feel like he wouldn't even be like evolutionary like fit, you know? So like it's weird that people would find him attractive.
Okay, well we have to zoom out and think about what does an evolutionarily fit person mean. And at the end of the day, it just means person most likely to carry on your genes and produce the most offspring and take care of your offspring the best.
Yeah.
And so that is subjective based on the culture. Like here in America, like an obese person would be least likely to be able to do that just because of health reasons.
Yeah.
But somewhere in North Korea, like someone with a good body that is fit, like implies poverty because most of the nation is in poverty and most of the nation looks like that.
Yeah, so I guess it's like relative compared to what like the standard would be, because the standard in North Korea is like being very skinny. Because I think like the average person is like 2 inches shorter than in South Korea or something. It's like they're very like malnutrition, and but in America we kind of have like an obesity epidemic, and we have like so the majority of people are like overweight. So like when you're skinny and when you're fit, that would be considered like to prolong your lifespan. It would be considered more fit.
Yeah, like being skinny in America means you're going to live a long life, and it means that you're healthy, but because you have to try in America to be skinny. Like you are putting an active effort into your lifestyle, which is the number one thing that indicates if you will carry on your genes, if you're putting an active effort into your lifestyle. But in North Korea, like you're not trying to be skinny. That's just a byproduct, which implies that you're not trying to carry out your genes as effectively as someone like Kim Jong-un, who like genuinely is trying to be like the best version of himself, which in that case means eating the most.
Oh, it's interesting like you bring up like what I was saying earlier about like trying or like kind of putting in effort. Like in America, it's like, yeah, if you're like a fitness guru or whatever, or like if you work out, that's like a signal of like, you know, putting in effort. And like I guess that would be like for Kim Jong-un, that would be like him putting in effort. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because like you think about manual laborers, and like I'm sure most manual laborers have like 6-pack abs and like strong biceps, just because that's like their job is to like do the gym basically. Yeah, but like a real life gym, and so it's like they're not putting in the effort consciously. Like that's just a byproduct of their work.
So where do you think like, okay, so we kind of have established like a relative attractiveness as for like body size and shape. So like, what do you think, like, how do those other factors come into play? Like, how is it in like, for example, like, I don't know, like different cultures like value like body hair or whatever, or like eye or bone and cheek structure. I feel like, how does that even come into play? Because I know like my family is Chinese, and so like in China, like they've kind of been adapted to like Western beauty standards. So like people in China, like they naturally have smaller eyes, but like it's like larger eyes is considered more attractive because most people don't have large eyes.
That's interesting. The whole like the minority is attractive. You know, if you think about like a bell curve, like the bell curve that we learned in statistics or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess like the actual features that you put on the bell curve always vary, but the amount of people at each level of attractiveness stays the same throughout each culture. Like for example, I'd say in every culture, only like 5% of the population can be categorized as a 10. And then like another 10% can be categorized as a 9, and so on and so forth, whatever that distribution is. But then what makes that population have those percentages varies. Like in China, like having large eyes, only a small percent of people have it. So that would shift you to the right on the bell curve, hence making you more attractive.
I feel like that's so weird that like it's like the minority is more attractive, right? Because like if I were just predicting, you would think like the middle of the bell curve is more attractive, like the person who kind of has an average blend of features. Does that make sense? Like I remember like watching this like ASAP Science video a few years ago. Like they were saying that like the ideal body type for athletes used to be the average body type, but now it's like extreme body types. Like bodybuilders is like extreme muscles, and figure skaters are like really small, like shorter and muscular people, right? But they were saying like the average figure skater used to be much taller because like the ideal body type for athletes used to be average, but now we're kind of chasing like the extremes.
Oh yeah, and chasing the extremes is like that's a whole other topic we can just talk about for another episode. But like I follow a lot of like weightlifting people, and basically every single pro lifter, body weight champion is on steroids or on some form of steroids. Every single one. Not like, oh, like 90%. Like every single one is on steroids. Some
Really?
cycle, it could be a small cycle, it could be a large cycle, but they're all on some cycle of steroids. And I saw a video on YouTube and it was titled like natural bodybuilding competition. And it was the same, like, you know, the stage with everyone is all like greased up and they have like
Yeah,
their
yeah.
spray tans on. And I was looking at them and I was like I could compete in that competition. Like obviously not like right now, but like
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people from like our city can compete in that competition as well.
Really?
Because it was like those people looked average, and all the comments on the video too, they were like, are you serious? Is this an actual natural competition? Because we're just so used to seeing those huge steroid muscles that it just seeing a natural body just doesn't look like enough anymore.
I feel like that's almost like a society, like a cultural and societal thing too, because I feel like it wasn't always that way. Because if you think of like someone who was considered really attractive, like a long time ago, honestly forgot what she like was Marilyn Monroe, and like if you think I like look back at like especially the body type of Marilyn Monroe, she would be considered like kind of like fat for like a model, like you know, because she was, I would maybe say like a 6 or like an 8, you know, and like now like models are like 0, like 00 to like 2 probably. And so like, and the same thing with athletes, like they used like the average body type used to be considered attractive. So I guess like why is it that we shifted from like the kind of like the average is attractive to like the extreme is attractive?
I guess it kind of destroys my previous like bell curve theory, because according to that,
Yeah. Oh wait, continue.
like according to that theory, like attractiveness shifts based on like whichever group is in the minority. And so the only reason the most attractive people are the most extreme people would be if all of society has become more attractive, making like the people that are actually attractive have to be on steroids and things like that. But I think it's actually been the opposite. Like we've become more obese and like we're less attractive. So I don't know why we still want the extremes on like our TV commercials.
Do you feel like it's because of like we are chasing those attractiveness standards, and so the bell curve kind of shifts, and then so when everyone kind of achieves that like attractiveness, and then our measure of attractive shifts too?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like we haven't achieved that attractiveness, but it's still shifting. In fact, we've gone down. Like the average body type now versus the average body type like 50 years ago in America has become more fat. Yet the average bodybuilder has become more muscular.
Yeah, that's
so the shift is in opposite directions now.
So it's kind of like the bell curve, it's like spread out or whatever, like the
It's
range
spreading
is
more.
greater.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super weird to think about.
Like the endpoints, the extremes are getting further apart, but the actual middle portion is just shifted to the left.
I feel like that's so like counterintuitive to think about, because like if you have a societal standard of attractiveness, like the idea is that most people would chase that attractiveness, right?
Yeah.
But like, so why is it that like we have gotten like the extremes have like I guess the very attractive and the very unattractive have kind of like widened the gap?
Yeah.
So like why is it that like, because my like theory, or just like the way that I think that it would work, is that like when we have a standard of attractiveness, everyone kind of tries to become that attractive, right? And so, and then your attractiveness would like naturally shift in a different direction once everyone kind of achieves that standard attractiveness. So like how have we diverted so far away from that?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm asking myself that too. And
like how did we get uglier?
like how did we get uglier but our role models have gotten more attractive? That's the question. I guess it could be due to the fact that like the perspectives of our role models are mutually exclusive from our own perspectives. Meaning like the pro athlete that's on steroids, he has nothing to do with like you being fat. Like he could not care less about the beauty standards. He's just trying to reach his peak performance. And at this point with social media and things like that, I'm sure like the pro athletes only surround themselves with other pro athletes that are also extremely attractive. So like like they have nothing to do with the rest of the bell curve anymore. So they just keep on shifting to more extremes by surrounding themselves with other extremes.
Oh, so it's kind of the idea of like the the bodybuilder, they like exist kind of outside of our normal person bell curve, right? Like they shift like, or they like chase their own standard, like regardless of what society thinks.
Yeah.
Is the idea?
I'm visualizing, like, think of a bell curve. And then on each end of the bell curve, there's another bell curve. And those, each end of the mini bell curves only apply to like influencers and Instagram models. And for them, in order for an Instagram model to shine out, they have to reach the extreme of the extreme, which makes us like only see the extreme of the extreme.
This is so interesting that you think, I think that it is this way, like, or like, I don't know if it's always been this way, but now we definitely have like multiple like mini bell curves, not like this one big bell curve. Because if you think of like, I just think of like Instagram models versus like Victoria's Secret models or something. Like Instagram models look very, very different. Like they're usually like shorter. They usually are like what people like call thicker. Like they have like more curves or whatever. But Victoria's Secret models are like usually just like very skinny. And like that is like their ideal. But like an Instagram model, like they almost like they can't be that skinny because they need to show off their like butt and their whatever, like boobs in their pictures. That's super weird. So like I guess like is that like why? Maybe that's why it's so difficult for us to figure out our attractiveness, because there's just so many different standards and we don't know which one to like strive to achieve, you know? Like like I could like go like you could go one way and try to be like an Instagram model, or you can try to be like really skinny and be like a Victoria's Secret model, or like you could try to be like a bodybuilder kind of, or like some men like prefer like I guess some men prefer like a more lean body, not as much as like muscle. So it's like like you don't know which body type almost like you are like going for.
Yeah, there's so many like the problem is there's so many bell curves on that bell curve that you don't know which extreme you should be chasing, because the goal is to always be on the edge of the bell curve, like the rightmost side, where it's like 10% is like a 10. But when that 10 itself differs, that's where the confusion comes in, I think.
Yeah. So do you think that like the way that we now judge attractiveness, like is that still based on the evolutionary standard? Like, you know, like is there like some kind of like evolutionary biology to that?
I think so, yeah. I mean, again, like I think at the end of the day, no matter what, like we're always going to think that the people that can support procreating will always be the most attractive. And it's just that definition of who is supporting procreating changes, but the actual guideline doesn't change.
But I almost have a hard time believing. Like, I feel like at least for women, like the extreme right of the bell curve, if you think of like those really skinny Victoria's Secret models, like I almost feel like that would be like less like healthy than like an average person. Like not like, because if you think of like, I mean now it's kind of changed like body positivity, but like it used to be like kind of like almost anorexic was the kind of standard, but like I almost would say that was like arguably unhealthy. And also like, for example, like having like butt implants and boob implants cannot be healthy for like you know, like having kids and like living long, right? But like for some reason that has become attractive.
Well, because okay, the first thing you said first about the Victoria's Secret models, like the fact that you yourself are saying that that's not attractive is just proof that like our biological sense still exists, because I feel like most people would agree that like they wouldn't want to like have a Victoria's Secret model as like their wife, but they would like admire her because she looks different from other people, so it's interesting and unique.
I feel like it like in the sense that like she is like very attractive, but like I feel like there's no way that could be the fittest body type, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I still find like models like very extremely attractive, but I'm like I feel like an average person would probably be like healthier in terms of like reproduction and things like that, because there are a lot of things like when you don't have enough body fat, like there's something wrong with like your eggs and estrogen or whatever. So like it's actually counterproductive to like your reproduction and like carrying on your genes and stuff.
Well, do you find do you see that there's a difference between like attractiveness and like wanting to date someone or wanting to be with someone? Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Because I
I
feel like
definitely
that's
do.
true. Like with people that are like a Victoria's Secret model. Like if you told me like would you date her? Like first of all, obviously I don't have a chance with her. But second of all, if I could date her, like I feel like I'd be too intimidated to do so. And that's probably also a biological thing. Like the reason I'm intimidated is because she doesn't look like a real human. So my body is telling me don't date her because she's not going to have like the body fat needed to procreate or whatever, like you were saying earlier.
Really, I feel like the only thing that holds me back from like, for example, like really attractive men or like, you know, those like runway models, like I feel like I would want to date them, but it's just like I wouldn't because I know that's not realistic, if that makes sense. Like it's not that like I feel like if I were given the chance, I would. Like I would still be intimidated, like you said, but I think like given the chance, I would take it. Like I think that my like I feel more reserved when like talking about that is because like it's because of my own sense of my own attractiveness, you know, because I consciously know that like I'm not attractive enough, so like there's no way that I would ever date them.
Yeah, which then that just goes back to what we were saying earlier about do you know how attractive you are? Like what if you're more attractive than that person, but your whole sense of that is flawed, so then you miss out on an opportunity.
Wait, this goes to a really interesting point about like dating and attractiveness. Like, do we actually like try to date the most attractive like person, or like we actually like I feel like we almost consciously match our attractiveness then. Like even though like obviously like it's
yeah,
like I have an
matching.
ideal guy and then you have an ideal woman, but like it's just like the sense that like we never actually like go for those ideal types like when actually dating.
Well, I think the reason we don't go for it is because we know they won't go for us if we're less attractive than them. So I guess
Yeah.
the system just makes it so that we're forced to match with people that are the same level.
Yeah.
But we would definitely want to match with people better than us. It's just they wouldn't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay. I guess we can just end the episode here. I feel like that was
Yeah.
the beauty standards thing was really interesting. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.